He never spoke about Vietnam, until the day a stranger walked into his garage, saw something that made him drop to his knees, and cried, "I've been looking for you for 50 years. This is the story of Sam Miller, a small-town mechanic whose garage held secrets that would unite a brotherhood scattered by time and silence. For 5 decades, he fixed cars and healed hearts, one veteran at a time. If this story moves you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes that some bonds never break, no matter how much time passes. Sam Miller's auto shop sat on the corner of Main Street in Millbrook, Pennsylvania, population 3,800. The building was nothing special: faded red brick, oil-stained concrete, and a hand-painted sign that had weathered 40 years of seasons. But inside that unremarkable garage, something extraordinary happened every day. Sam Miller fixed cars for free. Not for everyone, only for veterans. The rule was simple and absolute. If you served your country, Sam served you. No charge, no questions, no exceptions. Walk in wearing dog tags or military bearing, and Sam would waive off payment with a quiet nod. At 73, Sam moved slower than he used to, but his hands remained steady and sure. 43 years of turning wrenches had taught him every sound an engine could make, every problem that could hide under a hood. He worked alone, opening at dawn and closing at dusk, 6 days a week. Sam preferred the solitude. It let him think, remember, and forget in equal measure. The townspeople had long ago stopped questioning Sam's business model. How does a man stay afloat giving away half his work? The answer was simpler than they imagined. Sam owned his building outright, lived modestly in the apartment above the shop, and the paying customers covered just enough to keep the lights on and the coffee brewing. He didn't need much. He never had. What they didn't understand was why Sam chose this particular form of charity. Veterans weren't exactly common in Millbrook. Maybe 1 or 2 a month would find their way to his garage, led by word of mouth from other vets who'd experienced Sam's quiet generosity. But Sam seemed to know them before they identified themselves, as if he could spot military bearing from across a parking lot. Sam never spoke about his own service. When customers asked about the faded photographs on his office wall, images of young men in jungle fatigues, their faces serious and their eyes older than their years, Sam would change the subject or find urgent work under the nearest hood. The Purple Heart mounted in a dusty frame behind his desk went unmentioned. The Bronze Star beside it gathered cobwebs in silence. Sam's true story was written in the handwritten log he kept in his desk drawer, a simple notebook where he recorded every veteran he'd helped. Name, branch of service, years served, type of repair. No dollar amounts, because there never were any. Just a quiet accounting of service repaid with service. The notebook contained 1,247 entries spanning 4 decades. Desert Storm Marines with failing transmissions. Vietnam-era sailors whose trucks needed new brakes. Iraq veterans whose motorcycles required engine rebuilds. Afghanistan vets driving cars held together by hope and determination. Each entry represented not just a repair, but a moment of recognition between men and women who'd answered their country's call. March 15, 2023, started like any other Tuesday. Sam was replacing the starter on a 2008 Honda Civic belonging to Janet Morrison, an Army reservist who'd done 2 tours in Iraq. She'd tried to pay him the week before, pressing cash into his reluctant hands, but Sam had quietly slipped the money into her glove compartment when she wasn't looking. It was his way. The garage door was open to let in the spring air when Sam heard footsteps on the concrete. He looked up from under the Honda's hood to see a man in his 70s standing in the doorway. Tall, lean, wearing a worn leather jacket and blue jeans. Gray hair combed neatly back, hands that showed a lifetime of work. The man's eyes swept the garage, taking in the tools, the cars, the photographs on the wall. The visitor moved with careful precision, steps betraying old injuries. He paused at Sam's workbench, his gaze falling on a small framed photograph tucked between tools. The photograph showed young soldiers in a jungle clearing, faces streaked with camouflage paint and exhaustion. The stranger's reaction was immediate. His knees buckled. His breath came in sharp gasps. He steadied himself against the workbench as tears streamed down his cheeks. Sam watched in stunned silence as the man picked up the photograph with trembling fingers, holding it close as if making sure his eyes weren't deceiving him. When the stranger finally looked up, his voice was barely a whisper as he said he had been looking for Sam for 50 years. The words hung in the air like a bridge across time. Sam set down his tools and walked toward the man, his own hands shaking. As he got closer, recognition dawned. Sam's voice cracked as he asked if this was Danny Rodriguez. The man nodded, unable to speak through tears. Sam pulled him into an embrace that contained 50 years of grief, guilt, and gratitude. Two old soldiers finally finding what they'd lost in a jungle half a world away. Daniel Rodriguez had been 19 when his helicopter was shot down over the Mekong Delta in 1971. Sam Miller had been the squad leader who pulled him from the wreckage, carried him 3 miles through enemy territory, held pressure on his wounds while they waited for evacuation. Danny had been unconscious for most of it, floating in and out of awareness as Sam's voice kept him anchored to life. Sam had kept repeating that Danny needed to stay with him, that it was an order, that he was going home. Those were the last words Danny remembered before waking up in a hospital in Japan, his left leg shattered but his life intact. By the time he recovered, Sam's unit had been reassigned. Despite years of searching through veterans organizations, Danny had never found the man who saved his life. Until today, until he saw that photograph, the same one he'd carried in his wallet for 5 decades. Sam asked how Danny had found him. Danny laughed through tears, gesturing around the garage. He explained that word gets around about a mechanic who doesn't charge military folks. He had been driving for 2 days, following stories. When he saw Sam's name, he thought it might be coincidence. But when he saw that picture, he knew. Sam walked to his desk and pulled out his logbook. He flipped to page 1 and turned it toward Danny. There was the first entry written in Sam's careful handwriting. Daniel Rodriguez, Army, 1969 to 1972, saved my life in Vietnam, still looking for him. Sam said quietly that he had started this garage hoping Danny would find him someday. Every veteran he had helped had been practiced for this moment, paying forward what he couldn't pay back. Danny stared at his name in Sam's handwriting and asked if Sam had been looking for him too. Sam's voice was steady now, carrying the weight of decades as he confirmed that he had been searching every day for 50 years. He explained that while he had pulled Danny out of that helicopter, Danny had pulled him out of something darker. Danny had given him a reason to come home, a purpose. He gestured around the garage, explaining that all of this existed because Danny had made it out alive. Because saving Danny had reminded him that they save each other. They talked for hours, filling gaps that half a century had carved between them. Danny had recovered, married, raised children, worked as a teacher. He'd never stopped thinking about the squad leader who carried him to safety. Sam's story was different. He'd finished his tour, come home to a country that didn't want to hear about Vietnam, struggled with PTSD. He'd drifted for years before the memories led him here, to this mission of quiet service. News of their reunion spread through Millbrook. Local veterans finally understood why their repairs came free. The town council declared March 15th Brotherhood Day. But for Sam and Danny, the real healing had already happened. Danny moved to Millbrook 6 months later, becoming Sam's unofficial assistant. Together, they expanded the operation, adding a coffee corner where military folks could sit and talk, or just sit in comfortable silence with people who understood. The garage remained Sam Miller's auto shop, but everyone knew it had become something more. A place where old wounds could heal, where service was honored with simple acts of kindness, and where 2 men who'd saved each other's lives continued saving others, one free repair at a time. The notebook now contained over 1,400 entries. Each name represented a life touched by the understanding that those who serve together stay together, even when it takes 50 years to find each other again. Stories like Sam and Danny's remind us that some promises transcend time. The oath to leave no one behind doesn't end when the uniform comes off. It lives in the mechanics who fix cars for free, the teachers who stay late, the neighbors who help without being asked. Have you ever had someone come back into your life when you needed them most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes that brotherhood is more than a word. It's a promise that time cannot break. Because sometimes, the most important reunion happens not in a grand ceremony, but in a small garage where 2 old soldiers discover that coming home isn't about a place. It's about finding the people who helped you survive. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.